Have you ever needed to just escape from the world? Because I've got info for the overworked, backpackers, filmmakers, friends, family, and more. Lesson 1. Hospitality can be a lifesaver. To carry on with our story, after a few hours of sleep in our 4-person hotel room in Paris, we woke up on the morning of June 24th and saw that it was raining. There wasn't much time to change my perception of Paris when we were stuck inside due to the weather, but we went to a laundromat, aka a lavomatique, so we could at least get clean clothes while waiting for the rain to ease up. And we improvised a scene there that I called Scene the Lavomatique. I didn't have a way to number the improvised scenes, so I just called them by a recognizable name. And for that scene, we just had Aaron walk by in the background, so it looked like we just missed him. After that, we went back up to the hotel room and actually shot Scene 30, the fight, which had a little stunt choreography, and that was when I smashed my knee on the bed frame when the mattresses slipped apart.
Dude, my knee. My knee is now shards.
It went between the two beds.
Dude, that's what I put in my neck.
I almost got the line out too. Dude, my knee.
Man, did that hurt. But I was fine to walk on it in a few minutes, so I was lucky the injury wasn't worse. I explored the city on my own after that, and went looking for camera stores. But it was still raining, and I couldn't find a store that was open since it was a Sunday. It was my first time taking the metro on my own, but I made it back. At 9:15, we ventured out after the rain finally stopped. We shot Scene 26, losing Jack at that golden bridge we'd been so impressed by the previous day. And then we shot Scene 27, Moulin Rouge, but only the part I called the escape, knowing we'd have to shoot the rest later on somehow.
Action.
When I was 17 writing this in the US, I hadn't thought about the fact that I couldn't just walk into a strip club and ask to shoot a scene there the way that I could in a bar or a pub. But after that, we shot Scene Begone Green Fairy, one that was improvised and inspired by the experience with the bottle of absinthe from the previous night. That was a fun one to shoot, and I liked that our actual experiences in these countries continued to influence the film, giving it moments that I never would have thought of on my own, but were true to the locations that we shot in.
Rolling.
I'm using the Talladega voice.
Cool. And action.
Well, I'm not running to hit him, am I?
Yeah.
Alright.
Action.
Begone, Green Fairy!
Jack!
Unfortunately, we didn't make it back before the metro closed. Again. So we spent an hour and a half walking back, and we really wished the metro ran 24/7. My feet and muscles all over hurt pretty much every day by then, and on the way back, I realized part of why people see Paris as a dirty city. Most restrooms that are open to the public are pay to use if they're in service, meaning if you can't afford it, you have to pee and poop on the streets. We ourselves had to go pee in an alley during our hour and a half trek back because we couldn't even find a functioning bathroom even though we had the ability to pay for one. The next morning was June 25th, and we checked out of our hotel and walked to the Jardin du Luxembourg, a place I'd become very familiar with a few years later, but we had to ask directions along the way at least once to get there that time. By 1 p.m., we were hanging out in the Jardin while waiting for our train time to get closer. It was filled with beautiful plants, stone statues, and the Luxembourg Palace, and was unlike any park I'd ever been to. 2 of my favorite statues on earth are hidden in this garden, but I didn't see either of them that day, even though we walked around the gardens and looked at the huge fountain in the center and even paid 30 euro cents to use the toilet in the gardens. But it felt a little weird to be killing time with nowhere to go, so we looked for something to eat and found a stand a few blocks away. I had a sandwich au jambon, au fromage et de crudité for about 4 euros, and that was the sandwich I'd been wanting from France. It was absolutely delicious and more than just one thin slice of meat. But I'd now learned you couldn't just order a ham sandwich and expect it to come with the works. You had to order a ham, cheese, and lettuce sandwich if you wanted ham, cheese, and lettuce on it. But now that we'd stayed in one of the most expensive and populated cities of the trip, we were ready for a change of pace. Luckily, Selena had family that lived in a beautiful villa in a small town called Eymet. So we walked from the Luxembourg Gardens to a train station called Montparnasse so we could take a train from Paris to Eymet and spend a couple days at their house for free food and lodging. We arrived in Bergerac around 7 p.m. and Selena's uncle picked us up and drove us to Eymet and brought us to the villa, which was made of old stone with a trail to a pool on a hill, had a standalone garage, trellises of grapevines, a large back patio, and grassy areas all around. Trees kept this area well enclosed for privacy and a sense that all is calm and right in the world. And we really felt it. On top of that, the family's hospitality felt otherworldly. They cooked us the best meal we'd had in ages, and we ate out on the back patio at a long table that seemed perfectly suited to summer nights. We never once ate a meal indoors during our time there. They had wine with dinner that night and offered us a glass each, but only with the meal, not to excess. And I think it was important for us to see positive role models in regard to drinking now that we had access to alcohol and had begun experimenting with it. Also, the family spoke French at home, so communication was difficult. But I noticed my French improving as we stayed there and did our best to speak with the family, and that was something that would help me quite a bit when I took French classes in college. We slept very well that night, with 2 people per spare bedroom. But even after the food and the sleep, our bodies just hurt. Maybe more than the previous day even. So we took it easy on June 26th. We ate the meals they had prepared and started to feel better with real food, like our muscles were rebuilding now that we had downtime and an excess of nutrients. Our lunch that day was a spread of bread, fruit preserves, cheeses, and several types of dried pork, such as prosciutto, and then all 4 of us went swimming in the pool afterwards. After weeks of walking miles every single day, wondering where we'd sleep at night, relaxing at the pool felt like heaven on earth. I don't know how long we could have carried on traveling without a break like that.
I was just gonna keep on doing it. I don't give a damn.
Oh my god!
The first time you dropped it.
Give me a sec to make sure like my pants aren't gonna fall off. Okay?
No, let me learn.
That would be.
Yeah, keep doing that. Oh,
Are you recording?
Yeah.
Around 3 p.m., we slowly set up and then shot a scene in a relaxed manner, seen The Villa with Selena's aunt Marie Welling, and that was how she became an IMDb registered actress after she'd retired.
Ah, ça fait longtemps, hein? Je t'ai pas vu.
She helped us improve the lines in French, too, and I was very grateful for that.
Et bienvenue.
Merci.
Ça fait vraiment très très plaisir de vous voir.
J'ai une question pour vous.
Oui.
Avez-vous vu notre ami Daniel?
Around 6 p.m., we returned to the pool because it was still very hot and sunny, and we shot an easy dialogue scene, scene 31, by the pool. I felt like that scene accurately reflected how we felt at the time, and when the scene was over, we had nothing else to shoot that day. We were well fed, well slept, and happy to be a little bored, which meant the conditions were right for the next lesson. A fresh idea can save a faltering project. Because it was here that Aaron and I discussed how we were going to cut the footage together. He brought up that we didn't have enough transitional scenes showing us going from place to place, that many segments would feel fragmented and disconnected from the film as a whole. While we'd been in survival mode figuring out where to eat and sleep, we hadn't had much extra brain space for ideas. But that was when inspiration struck in a way that would change the film in its entirety and allow us to complete the picture. I suggested this whole film was a story being told to Ammon Hardy, who'd originally been part of the group set to go on the trip in the first place. We could include him in the film in a way that filled in the gaps in the story where we thought the audience might have trouble following along, while also respecting the reality of the situation that he hadn't been able to go. Now, we didn't get in trouble for this because we were the creators of the project. We had full creative control. However, if we hadn't, making a serious change like that during the production of a film would have been disastrous and most likely impossible. Our ability to make major changes on the fly was rare and very risky even then, because I'd have to add 6 pages to the script at least, and I wouldn't have computer access until after we got back to the States, so instead we just figured out where those scenes would go, and I decided I could write them after we got back. Storytime. We had a huge barbecue of pork and duck kebabs, a cold cucumber soup, cheese, bread, and fruit for dinner that Marie had served for a table of 10 of us. And for dessert, she served us a glace, which means ice, often in reference to ice cream, but it had the texture of something more like a sorbet and was flavored with mango and walnuts. everything was incredible, even if the idea of a cold cucumber soup was a little tough for us to get used to. But staying there had given us our first good homemade meals in weeks, and there was no end to the gratitude that we felt. And later that night, Selena's cousins and his friends, who'd had dinner with us, they took 2 cars and drove us to the main square in MA for an event that happens every Tuesday over the summer called La Marché Nocturne, or Tuesday Midnight Market, as it's sometimes called in English, where there were stands, bars, and outdoor tables set up as if it was a farmer's market, but late at night, and the bars and pubs allowed you to take glasses out of the buildings and into the market itself. So lots of people were drinking and buying. Good for the bars, good for the businesses. And this looked busy in a way nowhere else in MA had. So we sat down at a picnic table that fit 8 of us, the whole group, and they each had a beer. I drank water. But free beer was just on the horizon, because a drunk British man, a friend of one of the cousins, pulled up a chair to the front of the table and sat down with us. He offered to buy us a round of drinks, and I'll always remember the way he phrased it. He didn't ask if we wanted an 8-ounce or a 12-ounce glass. He didn't ask what brand of beer we wanted. He looked at one of us and just said, "Do you want a small pint or a big pint?" My friend grinned a little and said, "A big pint." The British man pointed at him and said, "I'll get you the biggest pint you've ever seen." And we all laughed, and he came back with a round for the table and glasses that were definitely larger than a pint. Everyone was in good spirits that night, and although we hadn't ever expected to be sitting at this picnic table with these people, everyone we met was amazingly nice. Everything we bought was very cheap, and best of all, we felt included. It was my most memorable night out on the trip because of that, and we got a window into the lives of the people here. This was where they went to hang out. This was their usual spot. This was what life was like in a small French village towards the beginning of the 21st century. We got a great boon for the film out of that night as well. While we were there, we asked the friend group about people we could shoot scenes with the next day. If we hadn't gone out with them that night and hadn't asked, the next day we would never have been able to shoot the scenes that we did. The cousins took us back and we slept at the villa for the night, and then on June 27th we slept in, but had our biggest production day in MA after we ate lunch. There were 10 people at the table again for lunch that day, including Ophelie Chiron, Marie Welling and her husband, the 4 of us, 2 of the cousins, and a cousin's friend named Anthony Gunidre. Now, Ophelie was a cousin's ex-girlfriend, but somehow, between midnight the previous night and noon of that day, one of the guys from the Marché Nocturne had reached out to her and she'd agreed to be in the film. So after lunch, we shot all 3 scenes that her character would appear in back to back. We shot scene 33, Jack meets Cora first, so she could get comfortable on camera during a scene without any difficult acting or dialogue. Then we moved on to scene 34, Daniel meets Cora, to establish a little chemistry between those characters. And finally, scene 35, Daniel and Cora, which made sense to shoot last because it was a more intimate scene, and I wanted to make sure that the actors were comfortable. All 3 scenes took around an hour to shoot each, and I gotta say Ophelie worked very hard to clearly say lines in English, and we were very thankful for that. We also got some good bloopers out of it too, because we tried to keep it low pressure and fun.
What's your name?
Coralie. Well, Coralie, but you can...
Action.
And afterwards I left Paris because, according to the
Hey! Okay, I'll be in the bedroom. Bye.
Si c'est ça, you've been sleeping, putain la vérité. You've been sleeping. You've been sleeping. Mm-hmm.
So after I left Paris, according to the itinerary, I came here. But they are not here, so I guess I am. Here I am now.
It's amazing.
He does that all the time.
No?
So here I am now.
It's amazing. You've slept in the...
I can't.
Got it. Aaron,
I'm working on
Aaron, you
it.
suck.
Here I am now.
That's great. You've been sleeping in a dance floor.
Wait, what?
That's great. You've been sleeping in a dance floor.
I can't believe this.
Oh là là, il arrive pas. You can You can stay in my room if you want. Et là, on se lève. Eh non, mais oui, je suis perdue. Je dis quoi? Pas trop long. Après là, pourtant c'est que des petites phrases, hein, mais j'arrive pas encore à les...
Oh, really? Well, where should I sleep?
Ah mince, mais oui. Pose la question, je suis con moi. Désolée.
That was how Ophelie got a supporting role in the film in one day. Another of the lunch guests, Anthony Gunidre, also agreed to a small role. So after Ophelie's scenes were done, we shot scene 29, which I called While Ross Pees, out on the patio. Basically, Julia gets hit on while Ross is in the bathroom. But what he says is impactful to her.
Would you like to drink?
No, I'm with somebody.
He's not here now. You will not to be with him forever, no? So you should have fun while you can.
The reason I put this line in the film was because that was something people had said to me, right? I was in a long-distance relationship, and I found out that not everyone agreed with that, right? Not everyone approved of the concept of a long-distance relationship. And that was one of the biggest reasons I heard why, right? It's not forever. You should have fun. You don't know how long this is going to last. What experiences are you giving up to have this? So I thought it was important to show that in the film, that there are dissenting opinions and not everyone's going to be on your side in a situation like that. But we only had 25 minutes to shoot that scene because we were trying to beat the sunset to get it shot. But we did, barely. I noted in my journal that everyone is very nice, likes to help, and is afraid to act, but takes it very seriously if they say yes. And that was how we learned our next lesson. Authenticity can increase value. The MA scenes added something I hadn't realized at the time. We got actual native French speakers to play French roles in the film and speak French on camera. And I felt like this grounded the film in reality and made it more worthwhile to watch, because you could actually learn the language a little better if you paid attention. For example, Marie Welling took the lines I gave her and turned them into something a real French speaker would say, a level that Google Translate and my French 1 class could never get us to. And then she said them with a real French accent, a level that we could never get to.
Il vient juste de partir. Ça faisait 3 jours qu'il était là. Je suis vraiment désolée. Mais comment savez-vous qu'il est venu ici?
Think about the stories of people who've been able to navigate the streets of cities they'd never been to because they played an Assassin's Creed game, or how much history people casually learn between Age of Empires and Call of Duty, or how much you learn about an era when you watch a period piece like Dances with Wolves, Jane Eyre, or Sweeney Todd. Of course, even the most wacky out-there fantasy story usually has something to teach through parable or metaphor, some moral takeaway of some kind, so I'm not against those either. But what I'm saying is, if people can learn more about the real world from your content, it inherently gains value. And as an independent creative, adding value to your work is incredibly important. But after a fantastic outdoor dinner, we had one more scene to shoot that night. We waited until everyone had retired to their rooms, and then we shot scene 32, Jack's speech, in the unused indoor dining room. And although it was a little dark and echoey, I feel like it fit the scene, and I thought his performance in it was excellent.
And you know what? I bet Daniel's having a great time. Well, I'm stuck here with you two, not getting laid.
I had some kind words that I wrote in my journal before we left. I will be very sad to leave this place. I love it here. The people, the food, and the culture is brilliant. It was 35 degrees Celsius today. I also love the weather, the humor, and the sense of real family and neighborly friendship that this place has. It's truly incredible. But, feeling recharged and refreshed after a couple of days in the French countryside, we said goodbye and got on a train headed south. But you'll have to tune in next week to hear about how we got strangers to act for us in Spain.
You spent 200 euros on one drink.
How could you do that? It was a bottle. And I was just trying to have a good time. We've spent this whole trip looking for Daniel. And you know what? I bet Daniel's having a great time. Well, I'm stuck here with you two, not getting laid. I didn't come here to see Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower or spend all my money on trains going places. No. I came here to find a 5'7" French girl with a schoolgirl fetish who wants to get some extra credit from her new English professor. It's the American dream, man. Life, virility, and the pursuit of short skirts. Is that too much to ask? And nude beaches, goddamn.